welcome to or welcome back to my channel, Knee Knits. My name is Amy, and here I love to talk about all things knitting, and today is podcast episode number 56, where I'll be sharing what I've been knitting lately. Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you're new here, my name is Amy. I'm 28 years old, and I love to knit. I live right now in Boston, Massachusetts. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, so a lifelong New Englander, hence the name NE Knits. I'm here to talk about my knitting. I tend to film podcasts where I talk about my finished objects and go through my projects, talk about yarn, pattern ideas, and stuff like that. So your standard knitting podcast. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I did take a long, unexpected break, so I do apologize for kind of disappearing without any notice. I just will share that the past few months have been extremely difficult for me in my personal life. I won't be going into any details just for the sake of my own privacy, but I did have to step back from YouTube kind of unexpectedly. I did move in the past few months as well, so I'm really excited to have the ability to get back in front of the camera and film for you all. Making YouTube videos has always been something that's brought me a lot of joy, and I did miss it, so I'm really glad to be back. Thank you for all of the requests and the questions asking if I'll return and the I miss you, so I missed you guys as well, and just really excited to dive into everything that I've been knitting lately. I am wearing a hand knit today. This is my Monday sweater. It's a pattern by Petite Knit. It's a classic kind of crew neck stockinette raglan sweater. I wear this all the time because I love the fit and the color. I knit this out of Sanus Garn Sunday and Sanus Garn Tin Silk Mohair in one of their navy blue colors. I'll put the color name and number up here on the screen. And with everything that I talk about today, I will put as much detail as I can, both on the screen and in the description down below. So I have lots to cover today. I'm not going to go over a lot of the things that I finished over the summer and then never got a chance to share on the podcast. I'm thinking I'll reincorporate those into my future episodes when we get back into the spring and summer season. So today we're just going to focus on my fall and winter knits, which I have a lot of. I also have a lot of new yarn and project plans, so we'll try to cover as much as we can in today's episode. So let's start with some finished objects. I have a small little pile to share, which is very exciting. So first up, we have this pair of socks that I knit. These are what I'm calling my Witch's Brew socks, which are inspired by the name of the yarn, which is called Witch's Brew. This is a gorgeous hand-dyed sock yarn by Honey and Quill. They are a local to Boston dyer, and I love their variegateds. I just feel like when they knit up, they have just so much like beauty and like not a lot of pooling at all. It's just like a pure, like really variegated, if I can say that. It is just a pair of vanilla socks top down. I use the magic loop method with US1 needles, my Chowgu red lace needles, and I cast on 64 stitches. I did a heel flap and gusset and then a wedge toe. At this point, I have kind of stockinette socks with heel flap and gusset patterns memorized for myself. A lot of people do ask what pattern I do use. I originally learned from the Crazy Sock Ladies free YouTube video tutorials and Summerlee Design Co.'s stockinette pattern, which I forget the name, but I'll put it up here, is also a free pattern that will get you the same looking sock here. So I love these. It was just a great project to have on the go. I've already worn them and washed them in the washing machine a few times, I think. So I did block them originally, but these are just kind of fresh out of the laundry. And another pair of socks I knit this fall, which I don't have with me because I gifted them, are a pair of Haunted Mansion socks knit from Sewrella Yarn's Haunted Mansion sock set from the Disney collection. This is another really fun variegated with like purple and green, and I really like how this one knit up. The pooling, I usually don't like pooling with variegateds. I kind of was hoping with this yarn to have like a similar effect that these knit up in, but I started knitting them and I just could tell it was going to pool, and I was a little bit nervous, but then I kept going and it made this really cool kind of spiral stripe pattern that I was not expecting at all. I kind of like it. although it wasn't what I intended, I was really happy with the finished result. This pattern, I ended up doing the Fish Lips Kiss heel because of the way that the striping was going. I didn't want the heel flap and gusset to kind of interrupt that, so I used the Fish Lips Kiss heel pattern by Socks Therapist, and I knit that in the contrasting color from the sock set, which is kind of like the same blue-green that is featured here in the sock yarn. So those were really fun socks to knit in the month of October, kind of Halloween themed, and my sister, who I ended up gifting them to, loved them, so I'm really happy with how those turned out. All right, now we have a garment finished object, which I know is probably more exciting than the socks. I'm really happy with this one. This was inspired by Cezanne, which I know everyone's trying to knit or get stuff from Cezanne. It's kind of trendy. I'm definitely just following the trends. Cezanne has like a pop-up here in Boston that I went to visit one day, and they had this gorgeous bright red stockinette slipover. And I had tried it on, and it was way too big. I think I even tried on the smallest size they had, and I just didn't really like the fit. It was really long on me. It was also like, oh, I could knit this. They do a pretty good job with their fiber contents in their sweaters. Looking it up now, that one from the store specifically was 43% baby alpaca, 29% merino, and then 28% recycled polyamide. But just feeling it, I knew I could knit something softer, and I knew I obviously could knit that since it's just a stockinette slipover. So I left the store, I didn't buy it, and then I immediately went on Ravelry and was like, all right, what patterns can mimic this slipover because it's super cute? And the Semper Slipover by the Knit Pearl Girl jumped out at me. This is a DK weight pattern, it's top down, and I know the Knit Pearl Girl does a great job with designing patterns that have really good fit. So that was the pattern that I ended up selecting to knit with, and I actually had yarn in stash to make the slipover in the red color that I wanted, which is rare. I feel like I usually, when I see something that inspires me from the store, I will have to like go out and get yarn for it, but I had this already. This was Ruby and Rose's Rustic Rose in the color Canna, which is this beautiful bright red. It's a little bit orangey, like a little bit of a warmer bright red, and this is a 100% non-superwash merino wool in a fingering weight. So because the pattern is DK weight and I wanted mohair anyway, I knew I had to get a mohair for it. So I picked up Barocco Ariel. Oh, the store label is covering the name of the yarn, but this is Barocco Ariel, which is a silk mohair. This is a blend of 65% mohair and 35% silk, kind of the classic 25-gram ball in the color Ruby, which was a perfect match. I actually went to a few different local yarn stores to me before finding this one that I really liked as a match to this yarn. I've never used Barocco Ariel before. Just to jump ahead, I was really impressed with it. I definitely would use it again. It's super soft, and I just love the texture that it knit up in. It definitely is a little bit pricier. I feel like I was surprised because Barocco tends to be a little bit more affordable, but this 25-gram ball was $16. So it's not a cheap mohair, but I think the quality of it definitely reflects the price point. So I had a really fun time knitting this. I did include all of the short row shaping that is optional in the pattern. This pattern is written for beginners, so it's a little bit lengthy and a little bit wordy, so it can be good or bad depending on who you are. If you're a beginner, I definitely would recommend the pattern because everything is really well written to help you understand what you're doing and why and how to do it. If you're more advanced like me, I just have a preference where I just want to knit the pattern. I don't like sifting through a lot of words or a lot of pages. So just for my personal preference, I wasn't a huge fan of how the pattern was written, but depending on the audience, I think it is a really great pattern to use. So I did the short row shaping at the top of the shoulder here, which creates this nice little slope. And I did modify the neckline a bit. I wanted the crew neck to be a little bit wider than what was written in the pattern. So I do have detailed notes in my Ravelry, but essentially what I did is I did fewer increases. When you increase along this line here for the neck, I did fewer, so that way I had to cast on more when you got to the final cast on edge at the bottom of the neckline, where you make the bunch of stitches to get to the same stitch count that was in the final kind of circumference. And that kind of shortened and widened my neckline just a little bit compared to the pattern, and that just gave me a stylistic look that I wanted. I felt like in the pattern photos I didn't really like how narrow the neckline was, like right at the top, so if you want numbers on that, that's in my Ravelry project page. Another mod that I did to the neckline was where the folding point is, because this is a folded neckline, is I eliminated the purl round that you knit in the middle of it to create that crease. I didn't really want the purl ridges to be on my neckline, so I ended up doing the method from the Monday sweater pattern, actually, where you do 2 rounds of double knitting at your fold point and then continue the rest. So it kind of tightens it up a bit for the fold, but doesn't give you those purl ridges. So it's just continuous ribbing here. So I was happy with that result. Besides modifying the neckline, I knit the rest of the pattern to pattern. I did crop the body a bit, which is standard for me. If you know me, I just knit all of my stuff usually shorter than what the pattern recommends, just because it fits my proportions a lot better. I did all of the ribbing as recommended to the recommended lengths. It's all 1x1 rib with tubular bind off to give it that really clean look. And I just love how classic this slipover looks. I did knit a few sizes larger than what was recommended for me because I wanted a little bit of positive ease. So I knit the 4th size, I think it's size D. So I wear this with about 4 inches of positive ease around my full bust, and I just love the fit. I think this is going to be a great piece to wear over long sleeve shirts or over short sleeve t-shirts. Also, just as like a standalone piece is going to be gorgeous. This red I've really been leaning into. You'll see my next project is also a really bright red. It is a red that's in my color palette, which I was excited to learn when I got my color analysis last year, that these like bright reds really suit me very well. I've never really been drawn to them before, but now I am, and I just love the slipover. I can't say enough good things about it. I feel like a classic kind of stockinette knit is always something that I've enjoyed knitting and I enjoy wearing, and I would love to make another one of these in the future. If there's another kind of yarn that pops out to me in like a DK weight that I want to slip over in, I definitely would return to this pattern. My next finished object is a hat, and this is the Ottilie Hat, a pattern by Gudrun Fessel. And this hat has a bit of a backstory. I actually saw this as a sample when I was in Munich. So I did get to travel to Munich recently, Germany, which was absolutely wonderful. And I visited a really cute yarn store called Die Mercerie, and they had so many things. I'll put in some clips. It was just a really cool yarn store to visit. And they also have a cafe, which is pretty cool. And they had in their samples this hat. This was with the Gepard Eco Cashmere Vintage, and it's a DK weight hat pattern. And I saw the yarn, I saw the hat, and I was like, ooh, I want to make that project. So I picked up 2 skeins of the Gepard Eco Cashmere Vintage. This yarn is a 100% cashmere yarn. It's a DK weight, sold in 50 gram skeins, and it's a mix of new cashmere fibers and recycled, unused 100% cashmere products from the Italian textile industry. So pretty cool. This is a really nice cashmere. I don't knit with cashmere often. In fact, this is the first time I've knit with a 100% cashmere yarn, and it's really nice. This one has a bit of structure to it, so it's not like super fluffy and wispy that I've felt in like other cashmere yarns at the store. It definitely has some like heft, which I think is good. It has a tight twist, and this is in the color Blood Orange, so another kind of warm leaning bright red color. And this hat has a lot of fun texture. It's knit with tuck stitches, which is when you knit one below. So you actually knit the brim out of half fisherman's rib, which you can see here once I unfold it. So half fisherman's rib, and you get to pick whether or not you want this side facing out as the brim or the other side. So I chose this way to be out, and I kind of like the half fisherman's rib brim. I feel like it just looks like a neater 1x1 rib. Like from afar you would think it's just 1x1 rib, but then you can see that it's got that structure of the fisherman's rib. But I like the way that it sits, because you know how 1x1 rib can be kind of wonky. It kind of wants to cinch in, but the half fisherman's rib, like once you block it, it kind of like stays open like this, and it just has a good structure. And then the rest of the hat is knit in a pattern that involves knitting one below to create this really fun kind of 3-dimensional texture. And you do have 4 kind of purl lines that go up the whole hat as well. And you finish off with, you know, kind of like a standard hat bind off at the top. I knit size medium for myself, which was the suggested size for my head circumference, and there are 3 adult sizes in this pattern, and for the adult medium I ended up using about 1.5 balls of the Capard yarn, so about 68 to 70 grams of the DK weight yarn. And I love how it looks. I mean, it is so fun. It's super cute. I love the pop of red. It definitely just goes with any kind of winter outfit. Like when I put on a coat, it's like adds a pop of color. I think the texture is really fun. And I like giving myself a little bit of room on top of my hats. And I feel like this is just the perfect shape. And it just is a little bit different than my standard like ribbed beanies or stockinette beanies. And of course the cashmere is just lovely to wear. So I'm a big fan of the Ottilie hat and a big fan of this yarn. I would love to use this in a sweater one day. Of course, because it is 100% cashmere, it definitely is on the pricier side. I have no idea what I paid for it. I can't remember, but definitely a little bit more expensive, but worth the luxury. I think using cashmere for stuff like a hat or a scarf is a really fun way to incorporate the really high-end yarn in a smaller amount. So really happy with this project. Those are all of my finished projects, so now we'll get into my works in progress. My next project, or my first work in progress, is the Vivienne Pullover by Sari Nordland. I've been working on this for over a year now. I definitely took a big break like last winter and over the summer, and then I picked it back up again and it's fully kind of back in the rotation. But this is a heavily textured and cabled drop shoulder sweater pattern by Sari Nordland. It features some horseshoe cables and some honeycomb stitch down the middle. It's got patterning both on the front and on the back. I will say this is definitely one of my most involved knit projects that I've made in my lifetime. I feel like every year I'll do like one really intricate cabled sweater. Like last year it was the Aurelia Pullover by Sari Nordland. The year prior I did the Moby Sweater by Petite Knit. And this one I definitely think takes the cake on top of all of those, solely because of the honeycomb stitch pattern, which you can see here. It's just super intricate, but it's a beautiful pattern. I've really been enjoying knitting this. Once I got into the pattern and kind of got used to the stitches, it kind of became muscle memory and it became a little bit more enjoyable when I didn't have to be glued to the chart or glued to like my needles looking at what I'm doing. I am knitting this out of the recommended yarn for the pattern, which is a Durarum Natura yarn. It is Durarum Natura Ulysse in the color Merlot, which is this beautiful burgundy red color. It's got like some black and also some brighter red in it. Definitely a color that is up my alley. I can't remember the last time I shared this on the podcast and what point it was at, but at this point, I'll bring it further back so you can see I have finished the body, and it's kind of off the needles because I haven't picked up the sleeves yet. Finishing the body definitely took a lot of effort, but like I said before, it did become like very enjoyable once I kind of got used to the stitches, especially the honeycomb. And I keep mentioning the honeycomb, so this is a 1/1 cable that happens. Like each of these little squiggles is a 1/1 cable. So every other row you have to do like 1/1 cables for like this whole portion, and then same on the back. So it's a little bit tedious. I've been doing this whole thing without a cable needle, which does make it a little bit simpler and less tedious, but it's definitely the most time consuming stitch of the pattern. And of course I was looking ahead to the sleeves and I was curious if the sleeves did or didn't include the honeycomb. And they do, so I'll have to do more of them. But when this is done, it's gonna be such like a scrumptious, like essential winter sweater. Like it just looks so classic. You know, it's got these cables over here. It's also got a ladder, which is really pretty. And then I did actually do a modification here where I am doing seed stitch on the sides instead of moss stitch, and that was literally just my mistake because I read in the pattern that you do moss stitch, and I always thought that moss stitch was the same as seed stitch, but apparently it's not. So I had started it with seed stitch, and then when I realized my mistake, I was like, well, I'm not going to rip back, I'll just continue with the seed stitch, and it looks great. Another detail here is some twisted rib down the underarm, which kind of creates like a nice looking seam. And the rest of the sweater has 1x1 rib for the edges and a folded 1x1 ribbed collar. I'm making size 2 for myself, which is the recommended size for my bust circumference, and I'm knitting this with 4mm needles. This is a sport weight yarn, and it's a woolen spun yarn, so it's got a little bit different of a texture than what I'm used to. It's definitely a little bit crunchier of a yarn, although no itchiness factor at all. It's just got that kind of like stiffness that I'm really excited to see how this blocks out. A, because of the yarn, but also B, because of the cables. I feel like this sweater is just going to transform into a really nice fabric. Really enjoying this project. I definitely only work on it when I can have like the time and the focus to kind of look at what I'm doing. So I can't really bring this on the go that often, which is why it's a little bit slow going, but I am really excited to wrap up this project soon. We'll see how the sleeves go, but because it's a drop shoulder, you just kind of pick up here and then work the sleeves. So yeah, stay tuned for more updates on my Vivienne. Oh, I will say, so the Vivienne, I've been talking about how kind of like annoying the honeycomb stitch is, but if you're looking for a pattern that is similar to this, Sorry Nordland actually has a different pattern called the Vivi sweater or Vivi pullover that mimics the Vivienne with like these cables down here, but it doesn't include any honeycomb. So if you really like the look of the sweater, but you're like, I don't want to do the honeycomb for that long on both the front and the back, take a look at the Vivi pullover. I think you might like it as an alternative pattern option. My next sweater project is a fun one. This is my Franky Sweater. It's a pattern by Skein. This sweater is so fun because the color is absolutely gorgeous. I'm obsessed with this blue, obsessed with this texture. A little bit about the pattern. So it's a Skein pattern, which unfortunately are not really easy to get. These booklets are kind of hard to get, and this one specifically is like older and I think out of print. So if a store like doesn't have it from a few years ago, they're not gonna carry it again in the future. Skein does kind of rotate their patterns. They come out with these booklets like every few months, and their patterns do repeat. So there is a chance that it could be in like a future booklet for like a new year, but obviously like I have no idea when or if that will happen. So I do have to kind of put that disclaimer that this pattern is not really easy to get, but the construction is pretty simple. It's a raglan top-down construction. The raglan is a little bit of a compound, so it kind of has like a wider kind of start to the sleeves and then gets a little bit different of a shape as you get towards like the underarm. But I think you could mimic this pattern with like any other top-down raglan pattern. It's kind of at a worsted to bulky weight gauge of 18 stitches per 4 inches, so you can use that if you need to kind of make your own Franky sweater. But for me, I am following the pattern. I'm making the smallest size. This is a really kind of oversized sweater that I think is recommended to be worn with like more than 10 inches of positive ease. I have knit raglans that have that much ease in the past, and they've just been a little bit too kind of like frumpy feeling on me. So I did kind of modify mine to have less positive ease, simply by casting on fewer stitches at the underarms. When you get to this point of the raglan, I think I did about half of what was written in the pattern for the cast on here. So that eliminated like 2 to 4 inches of positive ease around like the body circumference for me. But for the rest, I did follow the pattern as written. The yarn I'm using for this is Glowing Indigo by Ruby and Roses in their Rose Cloud base. So this is your standard kind of Surrey silk lace weight or fingering weight yarn. I am holding 2 strands together and knitting, I should hold this out of the way. I'm holding 2 strands together and knitting the sweater on 4.5mm needles, which did get me to the 18 stitch gauge, and it creates this amazing fabric. Like, I cannot get over how beautiful, luxurious, soft, cloud-like this fabric is. I've knit with Surrey before, but I've always held it with like a different wool strand. This is the first time I'm holding it double, like on its own, and it's amazing. I'm obsessed with it. And of course, this color, this glowing indigo blue, is so gorgeous. With that being said, I am almost done with the sweater. I actually just cast off this sleeve this morning. I knew I was going to film, so I was like, all right, let me just quickly finish this off. But the main gist of the sweater, besides being like the raglan shaping that I mentioned before, is that it features twisted rib accents, and the twisted rib is very big. So you can see the twisted rib here. That's about like 5 inches of twisted rib, and you kind of do the same along the sleeves. It has got that oversized boxy fit, so the body's really wide and the sleeves are also really wide. There's actually no sleeve decreases in here, so it was pretty simple to knit. And I say twisted rib, it's half twisted rib, so you only twist the knits and the purls are still regular. This is another sweater that's kind of been on my needles for a while, so I am excited to finish it up and start wearing it. This is going to be so cozy this winter. In addition to being super soft, this fabric is super warm, and I've really been leaning into like these bright, bold colors, like the bright red, this bright blue. Totally obsessed with them, and yeah, I definitely love this pattern. I love the yarn. Would definitely use Surrey Held Double again. I think it's interesting because you have to be careful with what patterns you choose because it is such a fluffy yarn. It's not going to really show any stitch definition. In fact, I was kind of worried that you wouldn't be able to see like the raglan shaping or even the twisted rib, but I feel like there's enough definition where you can kind of see. Like, it works well in this pattern. So if I were to use this yarn combo again, it would have to be like another kind of stockinette kind of basic sweater pattern. And I think these subtle details in the fluff really pull it all together. So that's my Franky sweater. Can't wait to finish it up. Maybe it'll be a finished object in the next podcast. My next project is also something I've been working on for a while. I feel like I just took a break from all of my old projects and then cast on new ones, and now I'm going back to my old projects. But this here is the Maggie Cardigan by Petite Knit, and the Maggie Cardigan is a crew neck top down cardigan. It features some really nice shaping around the sleeve and the shoulder, which you can kind of see here. It's originally written as a sport weight pattern, but I'm actually using DK weight yarn and just kind of forcing myself to meet gauge at the sport weight by knitting on a smaller needle size. So I'm knitting this out of Sewrella Yarn's Classic DK in the color Audition from their ballet collection. And it's this beautiful kind of dark blue navy black color. So a really good kind of like staple neutral color for me. I've been wanting more cardigans in my wardrobe, and I always take forever to finish them or work on them, and this is no exception. I don't know why. I did make some progress since the last time I shared this, including finishing up the button bands, and I'm almost done with one sleeve. We're getting there. Once I finish the first sleeve, I feel like the second sleeve will be a lot faster, and then that'll be it because I already did these button bands here. So I'll definitely put some clips of me trying it on because it is really hard to see what it looks like when I hold it up here. I have been alternating skeins because of the hand-dyed yarn. I feel like the camera definitely emphasizes kind of the variance in the yarn a little bit more than what is visible in person. Like you can kind of see here, like the alternating skeins is definitely helping because if I didn't, there would be like a big block where I switch skeins of yarn. But I just love the classic look of this cardigan. I feel like crew neck cardigans are definitely on trend right now and in style. This is something that I hope to wear both casually and also to the office because it does kind of have that professional look. And again, in this navy color, it's just going to be a really good staple for me to wear. I thought the directions for the button bands were very easy to follow. I don't think I've done... I feel like I haven't done a button band like this where you do the button band first and then you pick up the collar like along the button band that you just knit and do that second. I think that's just part of the crew neck design because the only other cardigans I've knit are V-necks where you kind of pick up the whole button band as one piece and then knit it. So if anything, this was easier because you did get to break it up into chunks. Like this here is like such a small piece of knitting. You do that. You cast it off with tubular cast off, and then you do the other one the same way with the buttonholes. Pretty easy to follow. I do knit left-handed, which is like mirror to what traditional, like more popular right-hand knitting is. So when I knit the buttonholes, they do end up on the opposite side of what is like seen in the pattern. But for me, that's fine. I don't do any mods to like make it go on the other side. I just read and knit the pattern as written and then it ends up on the other side. I am a big fan of this shoulder shaping that Petite Knit has in a handful of her patterns. You can see a lot more of the details on the back. It just creates a really polished shoulder cap and sleeve that kind of mimics a satin sleeve. One thing that I notice about this pattern is that the sleeve is very wide. I feel like the pattern itself has kind of like a streamlined look, and the sleeve, I expected kind of more decreases to make it narrower. Like I'm almost at the cuff, but you can see there hasn't really been too much to decrease out. So I'm hoping that when this blocks, it doesn't look out of place. I feel like trying it on now, the sleeve looks very baggy, and then the rest of the cardigan looks very kind of not fitted, but just a little bit slimmer of a fit compared to the sleeve. So I'm curious to see how that goes. Hopefully it's not something that I dislike, but I am just knitting it as written in the pattern, which when I purchased the pattern, I didn't know that there were long sleeve instructions. I thought I was going to have to make up my own, but pretty helpful. There are long sleeve instructions in there, just so you know. So I'm just doing exactly what was written in the pattern. All right, now for a very exciting work in progress, which has been sitting behind me this whole time. It's my Christmas sweater. Whoa. It looks so fun on camera. So I've been knitting for a really long time, and I've never knit a Christmas sweater. I feel like every year, like October rolls around and I'm just in fall mode. I'm not in Christmas mode, so I don't start any Christmas projects. And then December comes and I'm like, wow, I really wish I had a Christmas project to work on and to wear. But at that point it's too late, especially for a garment. So this year, I just decided it was going to be the year that I'd be proactive, and I cast on a Christmas sweater earlier. So we're in early November, or like mid-November now, and I have started this really fun color work Christmas sweater called Rudolph. This pattern I think I found on Instagram, and it's actually a free pattern by Novita on their website, so I'll link it down below. It's a top-down circular yoke pattern with color work that creates this beautiful Rudolph motif, and then it has kind of like a more traditional looking like red and white body, which I really liked the look of. I feel like this is a good mix of like cute and cheesy at the same time. It gives ugly Christmas sweater vibes, but of course I would never say that anyone's hand knit sweater for Christmas is ugly, but it's got kind of like that cheesy motif look, but still kind of has that traditional motif in the body that I think is a really fun combo. The yarn that I got for it is Cascade 2020, which I used to knit a lot with when I was in like middle school and high school for hats and stuff. So I haven't used it in a while, but it's affordable. It's a 100% wool that's good for color work because it has some grip to it, and it comes in like so many different colors, so it was a really easy pick for this sweater. I will list all the color names that I got below in the description. I do know that the red that I got is called Christmas Red, so that's this bright red here, and I am using for the main color just one of their pure whites. So Cascade 2020 is a worsted weight yarn. It's a 100% wool, Peruvian Highland wool that has 220 yards per 100 gram skein. And this pattern is actually more of a DK weight. The gauge is 22 stitches per 4 inches, but I couldn't really find a DK weight yarn that I wanted to use. And I know that I knit tighter with color work. So for me, knitting with worsted weight yarn on 4mm needles, I think should get me on gauge. But okay, I'll be honest, I didn't gauge swatch. I'm just kind of knitting it for the fun of it, and if it ends up a little bit too big, which I think it has a chance to, I think that's okay. Like, I'll be okay with that if it's kind of like an oversized Christmas sweater. But just like a heads up, if you do want to use Cascade 2020 like I am, just be wary of your gauge, because I think you'll have to knit pretty tightly to get the gauge for the pattern. This has been so much fun. Like, I've been addicted to knitting this. I can't put it down because every time I finish a round, I just want to do the next one to see how it adds to the pattern. I don't knit color work often, so I was a little bit nervous about if it would be tedious to me, but it's been so much fun. It's been really enjoyable, and I feel like my tension is pretty good. I do know a lot of it will block out, so that's what I'm hoping on, but for someone who doesn't knit color work very often, I've been enjoying it. This pattern doesn't have short rows in it, but I did add short rows after the ribbing before the color work chart started. So you can see where I have an extra wedge of white here, and then it kind of decreases down into the front. So that I added based off of, like, I've done other circular yoke patterns that have short rows, like Andrea Mowry's DRK Everyday Sweater. So I kind of like mimicked that from that pattern. I'll also link below, there's like a helpful blog post about how to add short rows to your circular yoke sweaters that I used as a resource. So if you're curious, those will be in the description. My goal for this sweater is to finish it before like mid-December because I want to be able to wear it through the Christmas season. Like I don't want to finish it the day before Christmas. So I think it's going to get a lot of priority knitting from me just so I can move along. It is growing very rapidly with circular yokes. Like I'm at my largest needle circumference and it's already being super scrunched up. So I'm eager to get to the sleeve split so then I can kind of relieve the busyness on this needle cord and then I'll be able to try it on. So that will be really fun and I'll definitely be posting updates on my Instagram so you can keep up with the progress of my Rudolph sweater. Oh, I will add, so I think this is pretty beginner friendly or like color work beginner friendly because it is a circular yoke. You just kind of cast on and go. You don't have to worry about like picking up stitches or special shaping. And it's all only like 2 color work for each section. The Rudolph, when you finish, oh sorry, the sun is coming in. You'll do duplicate stitch for Rudolph's eyes and nose. So for now they're just white, but later on you can stitch over it with red. Now the pattern has you do red noses for every single Rudolph that's on this sweater, but someone on my Instagram DM'd me and asked if I would just do one reindeer to have the red nose and the rest not, to kind of have a true Rudolph, like being one of the whole group effect, which I thought was a really cool idea. So I'm not sure yet what I will do, but did just want to share that. So thank you for that idea. There is something about putting color work like in a photo or in a video where it just looks so good. I feel like in person when you're looking at it this close, it's like, oh, is the tension good? Is it coming out? But this is definitely coming out and I really love it. My first Christmas sweater. I have one more work in progress to share, and this is another hat pattern. This is the Archer Beanie by Sari Nordland. This is a top-down beanie pattern knit in a DK weight, and I'm holding 2 strands of yarn together, which I got at Flock last year. These are from Ocean Fibers, and it's this beautiful, like, really super pastel-y kind of rainbow. The color is called Mermazing, and you can see up close how gorgeous the yarn is. I have their sock yarn in one ball and then their silk mohair in another ball. It's just this beautiful blend of pale pinks and like pale kind of cream, peach and green and purple. And I was just so excited to cast on this hat and see how the fabric would knit up, and it did not disappoint. This Archer Beanie is a top-down hat pattern. Sari Nordland does have a lot of top-down patterns, and I've knit a few of them before, and I kind of like the top-down construction of the hat because you give yourself like an hour to start it, like an hour of focused knitting time where you can do the small circumference cast on either DPNs or magic loop and like get through all the increases. And then after that, you know, you just gotta knit and you can take it to go. I did travel with this, which was nice because it was just on a 16-inch circular needle and I could just knit on it. And this has a really cool increase pattern for the crown. You can see it's a little bit not asymmetrical, but it's got kind of like that slanty increase, which is nice. And then the ribbing is actually a 3x2 rib, so it's not an even rib. And I just really love the way that this looks. And you can choose, because it's knitting top down, you can choose to make it like a single folded brim or a double folded brim. You can see here I was trying it on before I started filming, so I have it on like a barber cord and my needles still, so I could get an idea of what the brim was looking like because I'm really close to the cast off point and I just wasn't sure if I should cast off yet. So this is how much I've knitted on it so far. I think I'm gonna add like another inch or 2 and then cast off. You can see the ribbing here. Because this is a 3x2 rib and you fold up the brim actually has a different pattern because the inside is now 2x3. That to me was kind of cool and unexpected. I actually had no idea that it would do that until I folded it up and I was like, wait a minute, that's different. But pretty cool effect. I've really enjoyed knitting on this. Obviously this is kind of like a unique color with like the rainbow effect. And I have some sun coming in, so it's a little bit hard to hold things close to the camera. I'm trying to avoid the sunny spot. But I really love how this variegated is knitting. There's like no pooling. It truly is like a variegated fabric with a lot of kind of cool dimension. It definitely has an overall like pink look in person. and I think it's going to be a really fun hat to add to my collection. Also really warm because of the mohair and the double folded brim. I'll just throw it on real quick to show you kind of what it's looking like. It's giving like very pointy right now, so I am like fingers crossed hoping that blocking will kind of open this up a bit to be less pointy and more round. Yeah, I feel like Sari Norland wears hers with a really thick brim, and I like the look of that, so fingers crossed that this kind of weird like ice cream cone point thing goes away and it kind of opens up like that. And that's why I want to add another like inch or two, so that way this can be a little bit taller and I can still have this thick brim here. So that is my Archer beanie. Really good on-the-go project. For the cast-on, I did follow a, what was it? Isolde blog article that has really good instructions on how to do like a disappearing cast-on, so I'll link that down below. I don't find it too fiddly. Obviously, it's not fun, and you do have to like sit down and do it carefully, but like once you do it, you know, and you get through like the first 2 rounds of increases, it's pretty smooth sailing after that. Now we'll be moving into some new yarn and future knitting plans. I haven't updated you guys in several months, and as you can expect, I have a lot of new yarn that I got in, but I did get a good mix of yarn from small companies and just some big box stores. So for today, I'm just going to focus on the small brands that I got yarn from. It's a mixture of purchases and some stuff that was sent to me. So I got a bunch of yarn that I got from Pasley Knits, and this is from their book club or book trope collection. I think it's book club, and I'm trying to stack them because I got 5 colors. Here, these beautiful blues and greens. When the book club collection came out, they had stripe hype sweater kits, and the sample that Coley was wearing from Pasley Knits was absolutely gorgeous. I have seen the stripe hype, of course, I've seen it, but I've always wanted to knit one, but not sure what color scheme I would do. I obviously am a big fan of blues and greens, and when I saw this sample, I was like, whoa, I need that. I bought the yarn for it. I actually didn't buy one of the exact kits that they were offering. I kind of built my own and then swapped in one of the colors. I can't remember the details, but basically the yarn I have here is just one color off from the sample that is in this photo that I'll put on the screen. This is all in their Krabby DK base, which is a 100% superwash merino yarn. I feel like just holding up these colors, they speak for themselves. I'll put all the color names either on the screen or in the description box. Really excited for this stripe hype pattern by Kuto Vikika. If you're unfamiliar with the pattern, it's a drop shoulder sweater pattern with colorful stripes. You do 3 colors for the body and then 2 more colors for the sleeves. So I did swatch here, and the main color that I'm using, like the white, is actually from Sewrella. So I bought this. I've been really wanting to try their new home yarn that they've been talking about and promoting. This is their North Carolina milled yarn that they picked a like special color palette for. So it's like their commercial kind of yarn. It's not hand dyed, but you know, all the fiber and the milling is kind of local to them, and they were really involved with the process of selecting like the mills and the fibers and stuff like that. So this yarn here is a 80% superwash merino and 20% cashmere style nylon yarn. It's sold in 100 gram balls. This is in the color Love Letter, which is what they said is their cooler toned kind of neutral cream color of the collection. They do also have chamomile, which is their warmer toned. So I obviously got the cool tone because I thought it would go well with the cooler colors in this palette. It's got like the very slightest pink tinge, which I was a little bit worried that when I swatched it up, it would like look pink with the blues, but against the blues and greens, it definitely looks more neutral than it does just standing on its own. So I was really excited to swatch with this, both to feel how the yarn knit up and also just see how the colors would play together. And I love it more than I expected to, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know what I expected, but really impressed with the knitting of the home yarn. It's a very plush kind of DK. This is 212 yards per 100 grams. And I feel like looking at the yarn strand, I didn't expect it to knit up as kind of like full and plump as it did. I made this swatch on 4.5mm needles. And with the Pasley Knits DK weight yarn, this is 246 yards per 100 grams, so a little bit thinner than this one. I was worried that there would be some discrepancies in the fabric, but not at all. They knit together beautifully. I did block this swatch in cold water, no bleeding at all, so that was also exciting because I was nervous with especially like this darker teal against the cream if it would bleed, but no issues there. This will be a future cast on. I don't know when. I do want to finish up. I think my Franky sweater is going to be like priority to finish before I cast on anything new. And then of course I do want to keep working on my Christmas sweater. So I don't know if I'll cast that on like now or maybe push it off a little bit, but really excited for the yarns that I have for that project. My next yarn is from 96 Yarns, which is a new small hand-dyed yarn company. This was sent to me by the owner of the company, so thank you, Chloe, for these yarns. So they sent me a sweater quantity of their original DK weight yarn. This is a 90% extra fine superwash merino and a 10% recycled nylon yarn. And this is from their fall collection. So I do feel bad because I missed the opportunity to share this while the fall collection was available for order on their website. So they've now shifted to their winter collection, but from their fall collection, this is the color Black Cherry, which is this gorgeous kind of like red maroon Bordeaux color. It's a little bit more red and black than like the other Merlot color I'm knitting with for my Vivienne. Like a quick comparison here, you can kind of see there's a little bit more red in here than this one, but obviously kind of a similar color family, which sometimes I try to avoid knitting things in the same colors, but then I'm like, I love maroon and I love blue, so there's nothing wrong with having multiple maroon or multiple blue sweaters. So I've been going back and forth between what pattern I would knit with this sweater quantity of yarn. I kind of want to knit something similar to this Monday sweater, just like a classic stockinette raglan. I feel like in the DK weight yarn without a mohair would just be like a really good staple piece, and in like one of my favorite colors, something I totally would wear a lot. So I was toying with the idea of another Monday sweater because I do love the pattern, but I also kind of want to try something new. So I was also thinking the It's Not a Sweatshirt pattern by Pernille Larsen. It is in the Knitting for Olive book, which I own. So that's just like a similar looking, but just slightly different DK weight stockinette raglan. So that's another option. And of course there's like a ton of raglan patterns on the market. So I'll keep you guys posted with what I end up making with this yarn. Thank you, Chloe, for sending this to me. It is beautiful, and hopefully this color will be available next fall, but until then, be sure to check out their winter collection, which is available now. The next yarn I'll share is some Boston-themed yarn from Claws Out Yarn Company. Claws Out Yarn Company is another Boston-based dyer, and they had a pre-order for a Boston-themed collection not that long ago. Of course, I had to buy from it because I live in Boston and love it here. So this first color here is called Local Coffee Chain. And if you can guess what local coffee chain it's inspired by, you get some bonus points today. Hopefully most of you guessed correctly that this is a Dunkin' inspired yarn color. I just love the idea of it. Like, it's so fun and so New England, and also like gorgeous, like the pink and the orange. It's obviously a statement color, but I wanted it for a hat. I feel like knitting this up in like a 1x1 ribbed hat, such as the Manhattan hat, will be like really fun and just another like exciting pop of color to have in my hat collection. I got two yarns to hold together. The first is a fingering weight House Cat BFL, so it's a 100% superwash Blueface Leicester wool, and then the other is a silk mohair. This is a lace weight 72% Super Kid mohair and 28% mulberry silk. And then in the same bases, I got another color called Take the Cannoli, which is really fun. Cannoli inspired yarn. It's this more neutral, probably less punchy color than the Dunkin' yarn, but it's got this beautiful kind of like beigey background with some pops of like blush pink and brown. So this could also be a really gorgeous hat. I'm also thinking maybe a neck scarf like the Stay Toasty scarf by Kuto Vikika. I think would be really fun with these two yarns held together. So we got some Boston yarn in my collection, and then I have one more thing to share. And we have some more hand-dyed yarn. This is from Sand and Skein Yarn Company. Emma hand-dyed this yarn specifically for me, so thank you so much, Emma. It's absolutely gorgeous. We had been messaging to decide what color, so this was a gift, and I really wanted kind of like this bright blue that wasn't really pastel, but obviously was still kind of light. So you can see here, she really got it right with this kind of light but not pale blue, and I'm really excited to knit with these two bases. So this first yarn here is a fingering weight yarn. This is a 60% superwash merino, 20% super kid mohair, and 20% mulberry silk yarn. So kind of an interesting base. I've never worked with anything that had mohair like blended into it. You can see a little bit of a halo along the yarn skein, but it's nothing crazy like a full-on mohair. And then to go with it, I did get a full-on mohair. This is a lace weight, 70% super kid mohair and 30% silk yarn. Gorgeous. It's got a little bit of a like matte finish, but still has that kind of mohair glow. Really looking forward to holding these two together. I think with the silk content in the main yarn, it's going to add a little bit more drape than you traditionally would get from a fingering weight merino. When looking at patterns for this, I can't decide yet what I'm going to make with it. I was looking at the Rainy Day cardigan by Kuto Vikika, which she knit in a very similar color. So it's kind of inspired by that with the color. But I also really like the Amy Slipover from Santa's Garn that I have in that booklet already. Like, I have the pattern ready to go, so I think that would be really gorgeous with this blue, especially with the drape from the silk and the mohair in this yarn. So not sure yet what I'll cast on, but definitely wanted to share this beautiful blue yarn from Emma. So Sand and Skein Yarn Co. will also be linked below in the description. Also a newer, smaller hand-dyed yarn company. So really happy to share this here on the podcast. And with that, that was everything that I had to share with you all today. Thank you so much for joining me and listening in. I'm so glad to be back. I hope you will join me in the next video whenever that comes out, and I hope you guys are staying happy and healthy this winter season. If you're in the US celebrating Thanksgiving, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.